There are a lot of things that you can do to keep your radio station website running fast and secure. Well, today we're going to run down our ultimate website maintenance checklist to help keep your site running fast, secure, and optimized to help you get more listeners and more revenue.
You're listening to Better Radio Websites, the definitive podcast for radio professionals who want their websites to generate more traffic and substantial revenue. Get time-tested techniques, secret tricks, and valuable tools in online content, marketing, analytics, security, social media, and much more. Ready for your radio station to dominate digital in your market? Here we go.
Hi, it's Jim, and welcome to Better Radio Websites, the podcast that wants to help you get more visitors and the most revenue from your radio station website. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and this week we are all about more website visitors and more revenue. And it's things that you can do each and every month to keep your website running as fast as it can, because the speed of your website does make a difference when it comes to the visitors that come there. If the site's loading slow, or if things are broken or not where they're supposed to be, where they would expect them to be, then you're going to have problems. It affects the user experience, and it also affects your SEO too if you're having all of these issues. So we're going to try to knock all of those things out with a monthly checklist. And while this is we say it's the ultimate website monthly checklist, but really there are about 8 or 9 additional things that we could have added to this list to make it the super ultimate website maintenance checklist, but we didn't add those because a lot of people are not going to be into yet, like making sure that if you have any AI involved with your website, making sure that it's the latest model and that sort of thing. So this list, we first did this list back in, I think it was the middle of 2023, and so it was only 20 items. Today, there's 30. And we're going to try to run through these as fast as possible because it is a long list, and we'll try to briefly explain each and every one as we go through it. So let's jump into number 1. Perform a website speed audit. Like I said, speed makes all the difference when it comes to your website. And the first thing that you'll want to do is make sure that all of your images are well optimized. You can use online speed tools like GTmetrix, Google Page Insights, and a lot of other ones. Then these are absolutely free to try out. You don't have to get their pro plan or anything like that. But it gives your website a score, either A through F or a certain percentile that it gives you a score on. And it actually tells you where your site is slow. If it has 500 images on the home page and all of those images are not optimized, it will tell you that. Perhaps there's something on your hosting provider that is causing the website slowness. These tools will indicate that as well. Number 2 is monitor your website security. Security is so important. In our 11 years of doing this here at Skyrocket Radio, we've only had one intrusion. And knock on wood now, it was because one of the general managers had a weak password. So if you want to be sure that everybody on that has access to the website has a very secure password, and that they're changing that every so often. Security experts actually recommend that you change this like every week and month and quarter type, that sort of thing. I know you're probably like me, you've probably never changed your password on some websites. So you want to be sure that even if you're not changing them every so often like you should, be sure that they are super secure and that you're not, and nobody is reusing these passwords on other things. Like the password to the website is the same password that you use to your banking software, that you use to your Adobe membership or something like that. The radio station website password should be a password that is secure, strong, and not used anywhere else. And so kind of go through and do an audit of that. Number 3 is review your Google Analytics. Of course, this is very, very important, and we actually harp on this in numerous other podcasts and numerous other blog posts about how important Google Analytics is, not only to just have it, but to actually get in there and see how your website is performing each and every month, how the content is performing, what's good. Let's do more of that. What's bad? Let's not do any more of that. Perhaps Google Analytics will let you know that there are some pages that are giving errors. So if those pages are giving errors, you definitely want to rectify all of those issues. All right, number 4 is to clear out any trash. You're updating your website on a continuous basis and you're making revisions to things and stuff like that. You're more than likely have revisions that are in the trash, or maybe old posts that are no longer relevant anymore. And if they're just sitting in the trash, they're taking up space on your server, and it's just giving your website more to kind of stumble over to get to the information that someone or even you are actually looking for. So be sure that you clean out your trash on a regular basis. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is having to clear out things on the server. And what this does is when you keep your server clean, it not only minimizes the chance that you could have an error somewhere, but it's going to make it a whole lot faster if you ever have to bring your site back from a backup. Perhaps maybe the site got hacked, or maybe a server went down and totally corrupted your website or something like that, and you had to reinstall from a backup. Well, if that backup is 10 gigabytes, it's going to take a whole lot longer, hours longer than it would is if you cleaned out all of your trash and all of your media files and stuff like that, and only had what is the most current and the most relevant to your listeners and on your site at that time. And speaking of media, our number 5 is clean up your media library. If you have a lot of old files that are in your media library, be sure that you clear those out. I know that a lot of radio stations will upload big PDFs with EEO and other, applications and stuff like that they'll want to download. And every year that they'll upload new revisions of these, but they won't go back and remove the other ones. And all of those big files are just sitting on the server. And like I said, those can cause problems, especially if you ever have to bring your site back from a stored backup. Number 6 is optimize your images. And this should be right near the top. A lot of these should be kind of fighting for the top spot, but optimize your images is one of the biggest things that we can recommend that you and your staff do. A lot of times they'll use maybe a service like Canva to create images for the website. But in Canva, it's difficult, from what I hear, to actually create images to specific sizes and then edit within those confines. So you have to create a big image and then kind of shrink it down to the size that you need, and then it never really works well, so you have to go back and that sort of thing. So what they do is they just upload the big image, and just like Facebook, they think that the right image is going to appear right for everybody, and it's going to be all hunky-dory. In fact, you have these large images folks are trying to download these large images on their mobile devices and on their low-speed internet connections, and it's causing havoc. Not only on your server having to try to supply all of these big files, having to work harder, and now it's taking a whole lot longer for people to get your content, and that is causing SEO issues. It's causing user experience issues. SEO is falling, so you want to be sure that whenever somebody uploads an image to the website, it's for the specific location that you're using it for. So if you have a 300 by 250 ad position, you don't want to put a 600 by 500 image there. You'll actually want to make it 300 by 250 and then optimize that for the smallest file size possible. All right, so that's what optimizing your images means. And there are all kinds of other blog posts and podcasts on our website that go into details about how to actually minimize your images. One thing that you can do is look into making all of your images the new WebP format. PNG images are typically 3 to 4 times the file size of JPEGs. So you want to make them JPEGs, right? Sure, if you don't have WebP functionality. But if you do have the ability to convert your images to WebP, then they're going to be even smaller than JPEGs, and they'll still support transparency as well. So we'll leave some links to a couple online converters that you can look at in the show notes. Number 7 is review navigation menus and user flow. You'll want to make sure that your navigation menu has really only what it needs to. Don't think that you have to put every single thing in your navigation menu unless it's important. You can probably combine a few pages into one comprehensive page and link to that more prominently, and then let folks kind of find things in that page. You don't want to put everything on your website on one single page. That would be difficult to find things on. But if you can go through your menus and just be sure that everything works, everything is in the right place, and it's easy to find. Perhaps on your mobile app or on the mobile version of your website, you have less options than somebody would go see on a desktop version. Because in a mobile screen, you may not want this big long list of things or a certain form that's maybe hard to navigate and that sort of thing. So change out the menus. Do offer your mobile visitors and your mobile app visitors different options than you would for the people that are coming to your website on desktop. Number 8 is check for broken links and redirects. If you have broken links on your website, not only is it going to frustrate the people that are there, but it's also going to affect your SEO when gone unchecked. If you hurry and you get those links off and you fix those broken links, or if you create the page again, maybe you deleted a page, but you didn't delete the link in your navigation menu or something like that, then fix those, because it's going to make your users a whole lot happier and it's going to benefit your SEO. Number 9 is test your forms. We've had some radio stations gone through their website and just realized months later that a form didn't go through all of the steps and didn't perform right on maybe a certain device or something like that. And they realized that they missed out on all of this Advertise with Us form data that they could have gotten, but they didn't go through and test their forms all the way through. So go through each one of your forms on your website. Be sure that you can fill it out properly on the website, and then the right person gets that information. And then do the same thing on your mobile app. Go through the form. Is it easy to navigate and easy to fill out? And does it go to the right person once somebody submits something there? Number 10 is refresh the Advertise with Us page. We've gone through different podcasts and posts about your Advertise with Us page and how important that is. Be sure that all of the information that you have there is correct. Perhaps you want to make it more up to date with maybe the current promotions that are coming up, or things that you have going on at the radio station, or maybe some new testimonials that you'll want to add to that. So refresh your Advertise with Us page and be sure that it's current, that the form that is there absolutely works, and that you can refresh your testimonials when you need to. Number 11 is manage your spam and comments. You want to be sure that you moderate your who's getting the spam, who's going to be going through there and marking things as spam. Don't just let it sit there and wait, because more than likely the same person who has sent you some spam is probably going to start spamming your other things on your website. Maybe they'll leave a comment on one post, and then if they're not banned, they will leave a comment on another page, or maybe start filling out forms and stuff like that. But if you will go ahead and ban them, it doesn't allow them to go any further or go any deeper in trying to gain access to your website. Number 12 is engage with user comments. If you do have comments enabled on your station website, be sure that you're going in there and engaging with the people who do comment on certain things. Sometimes they'll be asking questions, and if those go unanswered, well, then they think, well, okay, nobody cares about the website's not a big deal to them, so I guess it shouldn't be a big deal to me. I won't come back here anymore. So be sure that you are engaging with fans in the comment section of your website. It's going to be a whole lot better for engagement. Number 13 is update your passwords and possibly look at enabling two-factor authentication. If you go through, like I said, and be sure that everybody's passwords are strong, actually go through and ask somebody, are you using the same password that you're using somewhere else? Because if so, you need to change it, and it needs to be strong, and it needs to be something that we only use for this station website or the group website or whatever like that. Because like I said, the only intrusion that we've had in the last 11 years was due to a weak password. So that is a very, very real thing. And it's really going to protect them as well if the password is different from other websites, because if they're using the same website or password for the station website as they're using for their banking or something like that, well, then it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize, okay, I got this person's name, I have their email address, and I have their password. Where else can I use this combination to gain access to the things that they have? And so it's only a matter of time if somebody gets that information. So do be sure that people are updating their passwords to as strong. One thing that you can look into is enabling two-factor authentication. I know this is an extra step that people really don't want to deal with, but it's very, very important that if you can enable two-factor authentication on your website, be sure that you do. And what two-factor authentication means is that perhaps you get a code via text message that you have to enter in also after entering your password. That's what two-factor. So it's 2 steps to gaining access to where you want to go. All right, number 14 is to remove inactive users and admins. If you have anybody that's left the radio station and they're still on the website, be sure to go ahead and take them off. If you're using a content management system like WordPress, you're able to attribute their news articles to other members. So let's say you, rather than John, it's now the newsroom post that he made last month or whatever like that. So be sure that you go through and you remove them completely from the website, because who knows, maybe they had a weak password. Maybe that is going to be the that little crack that lets somebody into your website. Number 15 is test your website on all devices, as many as you can. And this is going to be really hard for you to do because obviously you probably don't have an iPhone and Android and all of these different sizes of phones that they have nowadays. There are services out there like Browser Stack. It's a monthly service that you have to pay for, but still you can get in there and you can test your website on about 300 different devices. So it's really crazy. Every different screen size that you can imagine, but you can actually test how your website performs on all of these devices without actually needing the devices. Number 16 is regularly update plugins and content management system files. Your content management system is always going to need updates. It doesn't matter if you're on WordPress or Joomla or anything. Your content management system is going to need updates. And if you have plugins, then those are more updates that you have to look out for. Be sure that you're always having the latest software, because most of the time updates are comprised of security updates and feature updates as well. But the security updates are really is what you're wanting to do, is keep your website secure. And if you're failing on, or I'll get to that someday or something like that, then it's only a matter of time before your website gets hacked due to a security update that was missed. Number 17 is check and optimize streaming integration. You know, your live stream is critical to your station website, right? So many people now, they only have a website just to house their Listen Live button and their address and their logo, and that is it. But when is the last time that you actually tested out your Listen Live button? You may have tested it on a browser, but how about on a mobile device or a tablet? All right, be sure that you are testing your Listen Live and your streaming on multiple devices to ensure that everybody is getting your station. Number 18 is to verify podcast feeds and embeds. If your station is doing podcasts and you've taken that RSS feed and you've put it on your station website, be sure that information is getting updated every time that you issue a new podcast. Are the images coming in? Is there a player? Does that work? Can you view that player on multiple devices like mobile phones and that sort of thing? So be sure that everybody has a good experience with your podcast. And if there is a problem, be sure to reach out either to the podcast provider if you're doing an embed sort of thing, or your website partner or your hosting provider if you're having a problem otherwise. All right, number 19 is conduct a regular content audit. You want to go through and make sure that all of your shows are still in the right times and the events that you don't have old events in there, and anything on your website that it appears outdated. Go through each one of the pages. Like we said, the Advertise with Us page is very, very important. But what about the About Us page and the list of people that are at the radio station? You won't have somebody on there that maybe has left recently and that sort of thing. So do an entire site-wide content audit to be sure that everything is where it should be and it's most current, that sort of thing. Number 20 is audit your banner ads and display advertising. Sometimes you may have a banner ad that should have maybe ended after a certain sale or something like that. You don't want to have that on your website longer than it should. So be sure that you go through each one of your ads and make sure that the run times are right. They are in the correct positions where the client has purchased and that sort of thing. You also want to make sure that you're not either too cluttering your website with ads, or maybe you can notify the salespeople of maybe some positions on the website that are not sold. So whenever you do that entire ads audit or whatever, be sure that you let your salespeople know, okay, we don't have ads, or maybe coming up at the end of the month, this position will be completely wide open. Your salesperson should have a digital inventory list that they work from. We've mentioned that in other podcasts too. So this is a part of that ad audit, is to be sure that that digital inventory list is being updated. All right, number 21 is to test and optimize social media integrations. If you have buttons on your website where you can click to share a post or a page or something like that, or a contest with your social media followers, and listeners can share it with their audience and followers as well, you want to be sure that those are working properly. All right, number 22 is to review SEO for local listings. You want to be found with Advertise with Us in your market. And so be sure that you are checking your Google My Business accounts, that your website is constantly being found for those keywords. Yeah, you want to be found for local events or local news or something like that. But you also want to be found of people that are looking for advertising opportunities in your area. And you want your radio station to be found in those results. So be sure that you are checking those, the Google My Business, and you're checking your site for keywords, and your pages are optimized, and your images are all optimized, so that your radio station can be found when people are looking to advertise. All right, number 23 is optimize for voice search. With the rise of smart speakers and voice assistants like Alexa and Google Assistant and Siri, and I guess pretty soon OpenAI will have their own integration with that as well. Of course, Siri is going to be integrated with OpenAI, but still, a lot more of these assistants are coming down the pike, and they won't be just little balls or cylinders on desktops. They will be integrated with phones, and right here at my desktop computer, I can talk into the microphone and say, hey, play certain station. Be sure that your radio station is optimized for that. A lot like Siri uses TuneIn for everything, so be sure that your station is listed on TuneIn and that your stream can be accessed via that. Or if you use Amazon Alexa, be sure that you have everything coded perfectly so that your station can be found in Alexa, those skills. This may be something that you do every quarter or so, but because it doesn't really change once you get it all set up, but maybe you have something new that you want to be found in Amazon Alexa, like maybe a podcast or something like that. So be sure that everything like that is accessible in those voice devices. Number 24 is to test geo-targeted content and ads. If parts of your website are geo-targeted, that means that only people in specific areas can either see the content or hear the content. Be sure that all of that is still working as it should. Actually call somebody up in one of these geo-targeted areas if you're not in that area and say, hey, are you allowed to hear our stream? Because you're not allowed to hear our stream in Poughkeepsie. And so if you can hear it, then I need to reach out to my streaming provider because I'm paying more ASCAP and BMI fees than I should, and that sort of thing. So, or if you have parts of your website that are geo-targeted, so, ask somebody outside of that area and say, hey, are you able to access this information? Because if you have or you haven't, depending on what you need, we need to make some changes. All right, number 25 is to review show schedules and host. I mentioned this a little bit before in doing a completely site audit, that you go through and you make sure that all of your shows are the right specific times still, that one of the hosts hasn't gone in there and made an update to their bio that is, maybe they didn't say something nice about somebody or something like that. Maybe they're planning on quitting and their bio is nothing but a rant about how horrible the radio station is. Hey, you never know. It could happen. So be sure that you're going through each month and you're doing an audit of all of your shows and your content there. Number 26 is to ensure accessibility standards or ADA compliance. Accessibility is becoming a bigger priority with websites, and it's going to. I've said this in previous podcasts and on blog posts that accessibility on websites is going to be more prevalent for smaller businesses, like it is larger businesses now. Large websites like the major corporations, Amazon and stuff like that, their websites have to be accessible and easily navigatable with people with disabilities. And so I can see that the ADA is going to have guidelines that stretch a whole lot further out. And if your website is not able to, somebody's not able to hear your website via your station website very easily, then somebody could take that as you're discriminating against them. And so that could be an issue. All right. So you want to be sure that your entire website follows accessibility standards. And there are plugins and different sites that you can go into and plug your website into to see if your website is accessible or in places that it fails. Number 27 is to review syndicated content feeds. If you are importing content like the Center Square or ABC News or something like that, be sure that all of those feeds are still importing in maybe the categories that they should be logged into, and be sure that the images that they are downloading are legit and they all have their copyright information in them and stuff like that. Number 28 is to update your events calendar. If you have any events on your website, like concerts and upcoming things that are happening in your community, be sure that that list is always current and up to date, and no past events are lingering around on your station website, because that's going to be a bad user experience, seeing something that has happened last weekend or something like that. Number 29 is always make website backups. Now, you may have a website partner that already does website backups automatically. I recommend that stations actually go through and actually export a backup of their most recent content more often than they would just relying on that backup. Like I said, if you have to reinstate your website from a backup, if it's a large website, it's going to take a long time. It could take days. And then you're probably going to lose the last couple of days of posts that you have made. If it's a daily backup, you may lose a few hours. But if you're going through every so often and just making a backup of maybe your latest post, very important things that you just want to be sure that you do not lose, go ahead and make a backup of them right after you've created them. That way, if something is lost, you can just go in and reinstate that backup. Like, for instance, if you spend an entire day on this, your Advertise with Us page, and it would take you an entire day if you had to go back and recreate that, go ahead, make a backup of just that page so it's off to the side, or you copy everything and put it over to the side so you have that just in case something happens to the website. And then lastly on our list here is 30 is analyze listener data from your streaming analytics. We're going to start with analytics and we're going to end with analytics right here. So if you want to go through and be sure that where people are coming from, what they're listening to, how often are they listening, are certain shows getting more listeners than other shows, then all your listener analytics will show you that, where they're listening from. That is important information as well, because perhaps you can tailor your certain information that you have on your stream to certain parts or certain areas within the area that your website covers. Or perhaps your listeners are listening from a specific location, but maybe you don't have information about that area listed on your station website. Perhaps we need to start putting more events in from that area or more posts about that area on our station website. So this is a big, long list. I realize, and this podcast has taken way longer than a podcast normally does, but it's the ultimate list. All right, 30 things that you should do each month. And if you don't have a digital content manager to actually do all of these every single month, then we have a podcast about assigning and what a digital content manager does and that sort of thing. You can check that out as well. All this list is for your website to be as fast as it can be, as relevant as it can be, secure as it can be. And all of this is going to help you get more visitors to your website more often and hopefully give you more revenue from the banner ads and the clients that advertise on that website. All right. Do you have trouble maybe knowing where to start on a station website? That's what we're here for. Reach out to us at skyrocketradio.com. Hopefully this list has helped you. If it has, be sure to share it out with a friend, like and subscribe whenever you get this podcast. We do so much appreciate it. Have an awesome week online making your radio station website better. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Better Radio Websites. Remember to subscribe, leave a rating or comment, and share this episode with your team and radio colleagues. For show notes, archived episodes, and more free resources, visit betterradiowebsites.com. Need help starting or making your radio website better? Visit skyrocketradio.com.